Hey John, my name is Nelson Mason. I'm going to be your Racers360 coach here. I've gone over your lap a bunch of times. I mean, obviously you came first for a reason. Let's say that it's really strong. I would say super accurate, really well placed car, most all the way through the lap. So I'm not going to have a ton to say. I am going to be more critical than usual because if you're obviously placing first, then we're not trying to find you're not leaving a ton of time on the table, and therefore it's not as easy for me to do my job, let's say, and I have to be a little bit more nitpicky to find the things that are going wrong. So that's the way that it goes once you're definitely on the pace, which 100% you are. The Mustang obviously has tons of grip, which is impressive. But again, you have a really good lap. We'll run through it. A little bit of a background on me. So I come from, let's say, the open wheel world. So I've raced open wheel all my life. I guess I turned professional when I was about 14, and that took me over to Europe. And I spent the next 15 years in Europe and are freshly back to the North American side of the pond. I do have a little bit of autocross experience or solo experience because I was our driver for our Formula SAE team, which we had quite a bit of success. I think I won in Germany, and I think I placed second in the US when we flew over because I went to university over in the UK. But so I have experience from that side, and that's why I find it difficult to have a lot of corrections to you because it's treated differently as a standard race lap, right? So it takes a slightly different focus, but I'm going to speak of it as this track and you've driven this course many a time, so we can choose lines specific to that. In reality, when I would get to drive a course, I would get to drive it twice. I would drive one time would be like your banker lap, and one time would be your flyer lap. So on the solo events, I'm not sure how many times you get to go around the course, but I think still I'm going to be overly critical. So on one hand, I apologize about that, but on the other hand, I hope that there's enough that we can gain out of this to obviously give you the value to use Racers360 again. Because it is a massively awesome program, and I just want to ensure that we're moving forward and finding that value. So we'll start out right from the gate here. And the other thing, it's difficult for me to hear when you're fully on gas and not. And that's really, if we have any data or anything, that would help me out a lot. Here, all good. I mean, really good car placement the whole way. It seems like maybe we braked a little bit early or slowed it down a little early, but I don't know if we were on the absolute threshold of braking or not. But we take a very natural double apex approach here, which is right, because we don't really need the exit speed coming out of here because we're leading into a slalom. So I think this is all completely correct the way that we've done it so far. Now here is where I would correct our line a little bit. So what we do is we lead into here, and we have our clipping point at this guy right here, and then we kind of understeer out over here, and we understeer on the exit a little bit. And what I would prefer to do is maybe allow us to come in a little bit harder where the car drifts a little bit wider, and then we start to close in over on this side. And what that does is you'll notice that we'll roll through it, but what happens is we're actually having to put in a ton of steering angle, and then we're trying to get on the throttle, and that's really upsetting the car, bringing the rear around, and really preventing us from accelerating forward. So let me run through the corner here, and then we'll go back and start again. So we clip there, and then we kind of understeer out. So if we, when we come in here, this is the one that we clip right here. What happens is we realistically we don't have the car rotated enough. So because this is our last cone, we kind of want to be shooting out more towards that so that we can be accelerating in slightly more straight line. So we really are trying to get the car to rotate, trying to get the car to rotate, trying to get the car to rotate. And then finally we do, and we're on the power, so it just causes us to slide on the exit. So from a, let's say a drawing point of view, if this is our corner, if I can draw it, it's a very natural corner. Okay, but let's say there's a cone here. That's probably not correct, actually. There's like a cone here. I don't know. Okay, cone here. Cone here. Cone here. Cone here. Okay. So, and then we have our exit cone maybe right here. This cone, that's a beauty. Look at these cone drawings. I'm not used to drawing cones. It's been like, what was it, 2008. So 11 years since I had to draw cones for a track map, but no worries. Okay, so when we come in, and let's say we have our entry cones here that we're stuck with. We're coming in properly. We're clipping here, but that's causing us just to understeer out a little bit. It's probably a little bit smoother. Yeah, kind of like this. Okay, so we're just somewhat prevented from trying to get the car to rotate. And so then we're realistically having to do a lot of the turning over on this side. And although we're doing the natural turn and that's all great, it's just causing us a little bit of headache because we're slowed down. We've got the car, we've got the speed reduced, but we're forced to sort of drift out wide because this cone's sticking out a little bit more. And we're maybe carrying a little bit too much speed at this time, which causes us to understeer out to here, and we're not getting a nice clean exit. So we have really two things that we can do. We can either carry in the speed a little bit more, get the car rotated there, and come out a little bit cleaner. So basically, maybe our clipping point is right after. So here's like our minimum speed. And we're getting to full throttle a lot sooner based on that. Because this, we're sliding. So let's say with the red line, the line we're taking, we're sliding, and we're realistically not getting on power very early. And or we're getting on power early, we're not getting to full throttle early. Whereas with this approach, a little bit later apex, let's say, and a little bit more focused exit, we're actually going to be carrying our speed in from our slalom straight a little bit deeper. We have our mid-corner, like here's, with the red line, our mid-corner speed or our minimum speed is probably here, and that carries over to about here. So we're probably a minimum speed here instead of a single point, which is what we want. And then we're realistically not getting to full throttle till way over here where we're sliding the rear around. Okay, whereas with the green line, our minimum speed is really, from this point to this point. So we've really shrunken that up. We've actually carried pretty much higher speed up to this point and braked a little bit deeper, and let that car drift out just a little bit before we start bringing it back. And then we're realistically at full throttle or pretty much full throttle by this point. So we're really shrinking the whole corner up, just by a slightly later apex. Now, I said in the beginning, this is based on if you know the track really well, if this is something you run all the time or something like that. That's really the difference, is if you are only running the track twice, it's going to be hard to pick and choose all the perfect lines. But this is what I would do on this corner. I mean, we have enough of an exit straight that you're going to gain a lot of time by elongating that straight. And we elongate that straight by getting to full throttle sooner and prepping for it a little bit. And we're technically elongating our slalom straight by carrying this speed in and not forcing ourselves to do that natural arc line. So we're just going for that little bit, let's say holding the corner a little bit more to have the car pointed out on the apex a little, or on the exit a little bit more. So let's get rid of all this chicken scratch that you can feel free to print out and post on your fridge. Can this thing back up? Okay. So here, where we have our trajectory just kind of, we're realistically pointed out this way, and I would like to see us just pointed a little bit more in this direction. And this is going to allow us to get on the power. When we get on the power, we're not going to have that rear moment, which obviously costs time. Anytime the rear is sliding specifically, we're losing time. So as we roll forward, again, see, we're realistically understeering out, and we still don't have the car rotated. So we're still pointed in this direction, but we have this cone here that we need to get by. And the other line we would be taking, we would be kind of like, that's not that far over. We'd be kind of like in this direction, So we would just have the car with a slightly different trajectory. We'd find it much easier to full throttle. We might, line exit would be coming like this kind of, and not like over here somewhere. Whereas the red line, we're kind of doing this to get it rotated here. Okay, so we're realistically coming with a nice, cleaner, more open steering arc, which is going to allow us to put that power down a lot better and accelerate out significantly cleaner. So that's the critique I have there. As we move on, it's kind of the same as we get to the next section a little bit. Bombing through here, super good through here. And then it's just this one. We turn it in and we're carrying that speed, but we haven't really got to our minimum speed yet. So our minimum speed, we actually, I would say are over here, waiting for it to kind of turn. So again, very much the same as the previous corner. We're carrying this speed in. We try to get to the apex or the clipping point, and then we got to figure out how to turn the car while we're over there. Whereas, I think just giving it a little bit of a breath, we would, oh Jesus, I slipped. Okay, giving it a little bit of a breath, we'll be bringing it back. We'll have our car rotated more in this area rather than over here in this area. So, it's not like we have to overly prep for the straights. It's just, we're realistically, this is perfect, this is perfect. We're losing time all through here. So, you know, I think if we just are able to rotate the car a little bit more and get it pointed, you know, more out of the exit, rather than right now we're kind of driving over to these cones. So if we're just able to get the car stopped a little bit more, to rotate it a little bit more, we'll be able to get back to the throttle quicker, back to full throttle quicker, and that'll give us a significantly better exit. And there's going to be a lot of time to gain there. So, you know, we'll watch this through one more time. But you see how long we have to wait to get back to full throttle? Whereas if we're, you know, not so committed to getting to this clipping point, we can just spend that little bit, because maybe this we can see a little bit more. So we get in to the clipping point, and then we're sort of stuck, and we're realistically, the car is pushing out in this way. That's an arrow, by the way. So it's pushing out in that direction. Whereas if we just, you know, hold this braking a little bit longer, we'll, you know, maybe use a little bit more road, but we'll be coming back on ourselves. So we're able to realistically get to full throttle about here, rather than right now, we're not getting to throttle until way over here somewhere. So, you know, yeah, we're going to cost ourselves a little bit of time on the mid corner, but we're going to be gaining it so much more on the exit. And we'll probably be gaining a little bit more on the entry, because we're braking more effectively, rather than having to brake early to get out of the brake to get it into that initial clipping point. So, you know, I think if we can just hold that beat a little bit longer, and just really like slow the car down enough that we can get the car rotated here and just point it a little bit down this way, then we're going to have a much cleaner exit, and it's going to be significantly more effective. And there is definitely time there. You know, we're waiting to get back to the throttle, and I know we're then going into another slalom, but it's a slalom that we're accelerating through. And if we have the car planted a little bit earlier, like if we're realistically already straight and accelerating out this way, we're already more prepped for the slalom. And then, I mean, here it just gets tight, and, you know, it's a time thing. I think there would be a benefit in like prepping for this one, you know, so prepping to have a very straight, I'm going to use arrow. Prepping to have a very straight exit out of here, to again be basically back to full throttle at somewhere just after this apex. So I guess sacrificing this one a little bit more to get in here and then rotate the car and get out. I think there could be a time gain there. What we do, I'm going to draw a thinner line just so we can see. What we do right now is we carry the speed in here, and then we're really tight, and then we got to come back. And it's the, you know, I think at this point we're realistically not committing to full throttle till about over here. Whereas I think we can prep it a little bit more. We can cut ourselves down on this right-hander and then have a little bit better of an entry to the left, and it'll open up our exit a lot. I think there's a little bit of time to be gained there. I don't think there's a ton. I think, you know, it's a pick and choose. Whatever feels better, but I think there is something that to be found there. And again, I'm being overly critical, so I'm being super nitpicky. But, you know, I think it's something that's definitely worth a shot, is to just prep for that. Because whenever we get into those stalled positions where we realistically have to stop the car to try to rotate it in the little box that they create, that's time. That's costing us time, and it's not flowing properly. And usually we're in between gears or something like that. So if we roll forward, maybe we can see. Let me get all this crap off the screen. Okay, I'm going to roll back a little bit. See, and now we're back to full throttle. I'm going to roll back a bit more just so that we can see the flow. So see, we realistically have to stop the car quite a bit in here. And when you look at our trajectory, like we're pretty late into this one. So on the one hand, yes, we've carried the speed in, and that's the benefit. But when we realistically have to stop the car here in order to try to get it around here, that's where the problem is. Instead of, you know, like having a little bit more straight of an approach, which is going to allow us to accelerate. You know, we're going to be accelerating from this point rather than from this point. That's, I think, the critique I would say. I know we're going to lose a little bit of time on the entry, but I think there's going to gain more time on the exit, just with how much we have to stop the car and rotate the car here. Because when you look, like, I mean, let's look at our trajectory still. It's, you know, we're realistically still pointed out here. And if we could have it at all pointed in this direction or this direction, we're in way better shape. And it makes it quite difficult. So it's as if we kind of overshot going into there. Now, like I say, it could be, you know, just as quick that way. But I think that, you know, elongating this little flat left-hander will, like that we're coming up to, will benefit the stopwatch quite a bit. And here, I mean, it's kind of a same sort of section, but I wouldn't say the same thing, because there is time that we're gaining on the entry by carrying the speed in. So you're gaining the time there, and we're not in so much of a box. So we really don't have to stop the car, try to, you know, the worst thing and the biggest problem on a stopwatch is when you have to really stop the car and your trajectory is the wrong way. Because you're now stopping the car and it takes longer for the car to rotate, right? It takes longer to get around to the trajectory that you want to do. So prepping that early is good. Here, it's not so tight. We don't have to stop the car so much. And it gets so tight up here that, you know, when we're coming to the finish, a lot more speed and we'll be sliding around and have to lift anyway. So I would say we're more on the limit of what we can do flat through this left-hander. So here I would say this approach of driving it in is probably the correct one. Yeah, because they put it super tight at the finish. And, you know, when we come in here, we're gaining time because we're braking really quite late. So I would say through there, we're good. Beauty. All right, and that's a tremendous run. Tremendous run. Super clean, really well done. For the most part, I would say really well placed. Those are the little critiques I would make, but you know, like I say, I'm being a bit of a nitpicker. I don't like to be a nitpicker, but whenever somebody is already on the pace, you know, you have to kind of go out of your way to find the little things that you can correct. Like, and you know, I'm the same with my laps. I will say I watch them, and at first I'm like, well, no better than that. And then I start creating things. Oh, well, maybe I should have done this. Maybe I should have done this. There's a reason we probably haven't done it already. You know, maybe the car didn't want to do it or whatever. So, you know, I'm open to the case of some of these things don't work, but I think the reasoning behind those line changes and things like that, I think if you can see those, then you know, there will be a little bit of time that we can be had, and I mean, we'll continue winning. That's really the main goal here. All right. So again, thank you, John. Thanks for my rambles, allowing me to do it. And you know, any questions, anything like that, just send them on over to Dion, send them on over to me. You can reach us at Racers360. And again, thank you so much. All right. Keep it on track, and good luck. All right. All the best.